Hey, welcome to episode 141 of the Titanforge podcast. I'm Dratnos, joined by Tettles.
Yo, what up? Welcome to episode 141.
What up? And also Trell. Welcome to episode 141, Trell.
Thank you for welcoming to episode 141.
Glad to do it. Happy to do it. And welcome to all the listeners and viewers as well to episode 141. This week,
Shout out the listeners.
Shout out the fans. This week we are going to be talking about, well, we got a big season 4 stuff to talk about, so we'll do that. We've got the patch notes. We've got the big blue post about it, so a lot of info about season 4. We also have a bunch of alpha stuff to cover, so that'll be the whole show, is talking about those things. Before we do that, though, we have some esports related news, namely that Trell, our very own, will be competing in, or at least attempting to compete in, the Great Push this time around. We'll see how it works. I don't want to make any claims about how the time trials are going to go before they happen, but yeah, it's pretty exciting. Been a while since you've played a MDI or Great Push season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've had a squad of 5 slamming on live, as I'm sure lots of people saw last week. We barely missed a couple 30 DOSes and the 31 Gambit by like 3 seconds. Oof. But we all almost hit 4K. It was a good time.
Is it true that you almost hit 4K after only playing for 10 days?
As a team, yep. Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
Honestly, not even that bad.
Yeah. The season is, of course, ending this week with currently the North American title cutoff at 3670 or so. Mm-hmm. It's moved by like 3 points in the past 3 days. It'll probably move by another couple points, but not very many people are getting scored this week due to the spiteful necrotic of it all. So that's pretty. If you're more than 10 points above the cutoff, you're probably safe at this point. If not, then might move.
The thing about spiteful necrotic is that it's a very polarizing affix, especially after bursting volcanic, which is totally free. But like during the initial season, you don't see that change so much, and this may be why they don't nerf the affixes harder, is because in the mid-season, even if it's a bad affix week, people can typically get more score because they get more gear at the same time. But toward the end of the season, weeks like this, literally no groups will play because it is just so much worse than the other affix sets.
Yeah, it's literally just the people who are like 2 points below the cutoff being like, oh, I need 1 key, doing that key, and then the cutoff moves up, and then another group of people look at it and they're like, damn it, okay, we need 1 key. And so you just get like a little bit of movement exactly at the title cutoff. But other than that, nobody's really gaming for sure.
I mean, this week is also really hard. I've seen some people try to do some of the necrotic keys, like do some, like you need to be like doing 27s, 28s, 29s to get the title. A lot of those 27s and 28s are really tough. Like the first area of Gambit, just necrotic is so rough there too.
Oh yeah. 30 seconds, and like within 3 seconds of pulling the patrolling Murlocs.
Yeah, even DKs with Rune Weapon get necrotic stacks there, which is pretty hard for that to happen. Yeah. So
is the class allowed to have necrotic?
It's annoying as well because there's 2 Spiteful Necrotic weeks on the calendar right now. There's Spiteful Necrotic Tyrannical and Spiteful Necrotic Fortified, so pain. Don't know why they've done this to us, but I hope they stop.
They didn't used to have so many mobs that auto attacked so fast. Like every single dungeon in this expansion has mobs that auto attack at the speed of light. And I think that just exacerbates the issue. So maybe with all 17 necrotic nerfs, and if they make mobs swing a little slower next expansion, it might be okay.
Which mobs are you thinking of whenever you say that? Because I'm trying to figure out. Or do you think it's just like straight across the board, every mob is auto attacking faster?
Almost every single mob just attacks super fast in the game right now.
Interesting. Okay.
Except for like the giant mobs, which is typical of them to attack slow.
All right. Well, without further ado, I guess let's jump right into the season 4 stuff. So we have the patch notes for the season.
Before we start, I want to give a shout out to Blizzard Entertainment for providing content for this week's episode. Most of the time, the content is provided on a Friday, so it misses our show every single week. However, this week, big shout out to those guys for providing us infinite content.
Yeah, it's good. A couple hours ago, we got the notes instantly in our Discord. It was like, oh, poggers. We've been bailed out this week. Yeah. So I guess to start off, we can just go from the top of the patch notes, and there's also the blue post from Skarzard from yesterday that has a lot of information in it. But the patch notes have a lot of this as well. One thing is the faded powers that we're still not exactly sure how these function in raid. No numbers or anything like this. No how many faded powers are on each raid boss. Does it like per boss a different one, or is it per week that it changes which ones, like M plus affixes, or will there be multiple of these active on bosses at the same time? We don't know any of that information, but we do know the 4 faded powers, faded like affixes, and they're basically all Kiss Curse, right? All of them give you some kind of benefit for doing them, but you have to do some damage or, tank some damage to get the benefit. So that's kind of the TLDR of how these function.
I think I think overall, I heard that they were going to be a lot more Kiss than Curse, and like
it
obviously
looks like that reading them.
It kind of reads like that as well. I think that that's something that is pretty positive. I also know that at some point, I don't remember where I read this, but they also said, for those who don't know, it's like the raids are aimed to be like, if you've already completed, let's just say you do all of Sepulchre on Mythic, it's not going to be like you're reprogging that raid and you're not going to have to go through prog again like in a week. The goal and the aim for a lot of this faded stuff was to kind of make the raid something a bit more fun, to where like if you have done it on that difficulty, it should be like challenging, but it shouldn't take you a week to reprogress. It should be like probably like a 1 day, maybe a 2-day endeavor kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm curious as well, because we are going to come in low item level, right? We're coming in at 278 next week. For mythic guilds up against content that drops 304 items, so like maybe there will be some amount of just like under gearing it for the first couple weeks, but you can like Valor upgrade real quick if you play a lot in the first week and get yourself a full set of like 298 gear from doing that. So pretty quick we will be gaining a lot of the item levels that this patch has to offer, because there's like no heroic week or anything. It's just there's no heroic week, and there's no Valor cap as well, so big upgrades available.
Did they mention how much each boss will be tuned up at all?
I don't think they have how much like health and damage they're going to get. I mean, I assume obviously like Castle Nathra ones are going to get more than Sanctum, are going to get more than Sepulchre. I don't know like what health and damage numbers are going to look like. Yeah, like I wonder if Sludge Fist autos are going to be scary or not. That's going to be something.
Yeah, I'm really curious about stuff like that.
Yeah, I assume it's also going to be the post-nerf versions of all these fights as well. So like, if you progged the Sludge Fist that had the massive circle, and now you're fighting the one that has the small circle, it's going to still feel pretty easy, I think.
Well, I think you're also going to roll up with all of the bosses be like post-nerf as well, and so like there's going to be a lot of different stuff that's changed. And again, they made it sound like it wasn't going to be that challenging. Obviously, we haven't really seen too much of it, so that's definitely going to be up for debate as to whether or not it is challenging. But they said the goal is to be like,
because my guild is not. We're not going to do prog. Like if it's like 50 pulls to kill SLG again, we're just out of it. I don't think we're doing that.
Oh, I don't think we would do that either. I think we're doing like 2 days maybe.
Yeah, we're my guild. Like we're gonna do, if the mythic bosses are doable the first week, we'll do those. But otherwise, we'll just go in and get some heroic gear, I guess, and do some sales and kind of vibe out.
Oh, I had never even contemplated what are the odds.
I mean, the heroic gear is good. Yeah, it'll be upgrades for us this first week, so it'll be 290 something. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the plan is. Depends on how they tune them for sure. M+, obviously the M+ rotation's changing. Again, we're not going to go over all the information that's already been out about Season 4. But yeah, M+ rotation is changing to Tazavesh, Mechagon, Karazhan, Dox, and Depot. They are also changing enemy forces in the 2 Tazavesh. They're nerfing the Giants in Gambit. Good nerf.
Good change.
Those mobs definitely needed this. I still don't know if they'll be pulled in high keys, but big nerf.
I pulled one last week on the first pull.
You pull them sometimes, right?
Okay, yeah, so maybe they'll be good now.
They're actually worth like 5% count, so they are really good if you can survive them, and they die on time.
You know what's funny? The lightning mobs, the cracklers, I don't remember what they're called.
Yeah, the Guardians,
those
Stormforge
mobs,
Guardians.
Turbo cursed.
Yeah.
Yeah, skip all those for sure.
No woe buff anymore to do that with, though. You're gonna have to get the old Shroudy Sea or Invis pot
or Night Elf.
I'd like to give a shout out to the rogues in the chat.
Yeah. Slight nerf to Hooktail. Well, I guess making Anchor Shot no longer scale with Fortified, so maybe it'll scale with Tyran. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So this is an interesting one because that boss was harder on 34th than it was on 31 Tyran, and now I think Tyrannical is going to be insane.
If this scales with Tyran and not just doesn't scale with either.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's Tyran, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being environmental and not scaling at
Yeah.
all. I don't. Well, that's not how that reads. We'll see.
We'll see. Streets of Wonder, some small nerfs to Spark Casters and custom security, and fan mail on Postmaster, which I think is another good target. And also enemy forces adjusted here as well. So we don't know exactly what enemy forces have been adjusted means, but
Okay, so I suspect it has to do with so basically with how the Shrouded affix works, like whenever you tag a mob that has like the Shrouded buff on them, they just turn into like a demon, and then once you kill the demon, that gives you the stats that correspond with the Shrouded affix. I suspect it's to make maybe it makes routes feel a little bit better. Maybe there would be some weird stuff. I don't know about how much streets needed to change, but with Gambit in particular, I suspect that there would be some weird count stuff going on in Gambit with some of the mobs, and so I suspect that like enemy forces being adjusted is like putting you in a position to where you're not going to have to just basically pull 75% of your enemy forces in the Murloc area.
yeah, we'll see how that actually turns out for sure. It's worth noting they haven't said anything about enemy forces being adjusted in the Karazhans and the Mechagons and stuff, but Nagi, creator of MDT, tweeted out something that suggested that they were changing the count in some of the older dungeons too. So that may not have been noted, but it may be different than what we were used to in those dungeons.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because like they wouldn't necessarily say that because those dungeons haven't been around in such a long time. So it's like, oh, the count has been adjusted, but it's like not something that people remember, I guess I would say.
Yeah,
I hope they changed the workshop stuff. I think the workshop stuff needs changing.
Yes, with Shrouded coming in, you have less count than you did back in Awakened, so you need to get like everything in the dungeon except for the last pull you can skip, I think.
The count was perfect, so they'd already adjusted it whenever we did it, but it was like the packs were still kind of cursed.
Right, yeah, it was like more, I think the thing we were hoping they would do is like separate those two end pulls into two different pulls instead of being right on top of each other. Also, there are going to be portals to the Gorgrond, Karazhan, and Mechagon and Orbos, so it's not a huge rush to do those plus 20s to get your Keystone Hero to get the dungeon teleports.
Yeah, so like they're at the top of the ring. There's just like portals up there, and so
they were there on PTR as well. Yeah,
I saw some people being like, "Oh, I'm not even going to do the dungeon if I have to travel to Gorgrond to get to Iron Docks and stuff." Yeah, there's portals up top. Don't worry about it like that.
Yeah. Okay, Empowered World Boss. While the raid is faded, the associated World Boss is also faded and drops like 285 loot, so pretty poggers. Then we get to the class balance system area. So, as our resident balance druid expert, Tettles, what are the implications here of this 15% buff to Starfall damage?
Well, Starfall does 15% more damage, Ratnos.
So, Moonkin good now?
I think it probably needed more than a 15% buff. I think it's fine. I mean, it's weird. I will say it's in a weird spot because it's like broken but also bad. So I always run into an issue of I don't know how to describe it. I think that the bigger thing is like the developer note. It's more talking about like the future of Starfall, and so like Moonkin kind of needed an AOE rework, but they would probably not commit to something like that going into like season 4 or like mid expansion. And so I think that them saying like we're looking into different solutions for the future, that meaning Dragonflight probably is more positive. I will say, pretty happy. I expected nothing. I honestly expected nothing. I even made a tweet. I was like, "Yo, where are the class balance changes today?" And then 2 hours later, they posted class balance changes. I was like, "Okay, thank you."
Insider trading.
Pretty poggers.
So what do they need to do to fix Moonkin AoE titles going forward? What do you think?
Oh, just make Starfall stackable. More Starfalls. More Starfalls and more Astral Power. More dots.
Because, I mean, you gain more Astral Power gain as you go across the expansion normally, right? So, like, that would just make sense to at least scale it with power gains, right?
So I think that the short answer to your question is like yes. But it's more just like most people liked the playstyle that they had back in Legion where you had like a lot of Astral Power, you're able to drop a bunch of Starfalls. That kind of playstyle really appealed to people, just like the faster spending playstyle. We're getting really deep into Moonkin talk here. I was not expecting this. And so like the layering of Starfalls is something that should be looked at. In addition to that, dots generating more Astral Power would probably be preferable because right now you don't even apply Moonfire past 5 targets, which feels pretty bad, I will admit. Like that's not my favorite playstyle, and so I think that like you generate more Astral Power from your dots, less focus on builders on AoE just in general, more focus on Starfall and dotting is preferred.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they called the dad build in Legion, right? That kind of play
Oh,
style.
that was sick. That was double. That was like you always maintain.
Yeah, Starfall even on one target, right? Yeah.
I don't think we need to get back to that.
Okay,
Like,
so not quite that, but somewhere in the middle.
I'm not foolish enough to advocate for that. Like that's not the build I was looking for, but that was cool. Whatever, that was the thing.
All right, Serve Hunter's getting actually some single target buffs, and then 4-set nerf to 20% instead of 30% on the Wildfire Bomb bonus damage, and also a soft cap at 8 on Wildfire Bomb and its variants. So overall, I think Serve should be pretty happy to see this, because this seems like a pretty light touch to the spec.
They seem to me like they're going to still be good at what they were good at previously. Like they are going to be a little bit worse on 20 mob pulls. They were still. I still think that they're going to be particularly strong on AoE. They're not really removing their AoE niche, and then they're honestly buffing them on single target. So I mean, you can't. Okay, I guess the Wildfire Bomb is kind of a nerf on single target as well, but I suspect that's probably neutral on single. I haven't looked at the numbers on it though.
Soft capping a spec at 8. People see specs getting target capped and it's like, oh, this is dead. But like, there is a world of difference between the hard cap at 5 and the soft cap at 8. The soft cap at 8 is really not that bad. Like that is a very fine thing to happen. It doesn't really change too much. So
the Inferno got soft capped at 8 for Destro, and I heard like from MDI teams in particular, they were like, oh, okay, this actually made a massive amount of difference in the amount of damage our Destro locks were putting out, but basically nobody else noticed any difference in like Destro lock performance except for MDI teams, and so that's the soft cap at 8 phenomenon.
Yeah, which is good. Soft cap at 8. Always have said if they had just done that the whole time, we would never have had the whole problem with it.
Yeah,
and that's where most things are now, and which is why we don't complain about it every week anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it only matters on Anduin whenever you're trying to kill the souls and your MM Hunter is still capped at 5, and then your MM Hunter and your Warrior are both capped at 5, and they're not able to actually hit them evenly, and then one of them dies randomly. You're like, okay.
Those people shouldn't be AoEing.
Okay, that was the conclusion that I'm pretty sure every guild came to.
Yeah. Arcane Mage, clear casting duration increased to 20 seconds from 15 seconds. Whoa.
So pog.
Poggers. Not
just
a
PvP
change.
thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's a PvP change that just they didn't feel the need to make it a PvP specific change.
Yeah.
Windwalker spinning crane kick damage reduced by 5%. Again, if I was a Windwalker, poggers, right? Like
Windwalker's dead.
Nerf.
This is
such a fake nerf.
Like your spec is much better than this relative to the field, especially like this is smaller nerf than Destra's getting. Like Windwalker is very likely a candidate for one of the BIS M+ specs next season, and getting a small nerf is kind of better than getting no nerf because it reduces the chance of getting another nerf in the future.
Yeah, I think it's probably still the best overall AoE single target mix in Mythic Plus.
He's better than Serve?
Probably. They might be
It was
close.
worse than Serve on this patch, but
I was asking about Serve across a couple Serve players, and I got mixed reviews, so I guess we're going to have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, probably close.
A nice little buff to Prop Pally coming in here, baseline armor value, and also Holy Shield block chance. So pretty, spec that was already pretty good in M+, getting a nice little bump here will definitely help them in raid as well.
5% is how 5% armor feels like a lot of weight.
It's
So
mid.
Prop Pallies are getting slapped around compared to DKs and Brewmasters and high keys. I was watching the top Prop Pally player Drogo right now actually do high keys last week, and he was just getting clapped. So I think this is probably needed.
Okay.
But Prop Pally is so polar. Like when it's just barely not living, it's bad. But when it's barely good enough, it's insanely good. So
Right, like Zamak,
goes.
getting the title with no healer, right, on Prop Pally. That kind of activity is.
It's just like DK, where if it can live the damage intake consistently, it's just going to be an insanely good tank because of all the things it brings.
It's just that, like armor scaling in general, just increasing their armor by 5%. That is a normal, like historically, those are like big buffs or nerfs whenever they are starting to hit like the base armor on classes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out. Like obviously, like meta, like tanking is so finicky, like Troll was pointing out.
Shadow Priest, actually some pretty big buffs here. Mind Seer, Shadow Crash, and Searing Nightmare damage increased by 15%, which my understanding is this means you're now Searing Nightmaring on 2 targets as well, which Shadow Priests love pressing Searing Nightmare. It's one of their favorite things. If you ever talk to them, they're always like, I love Searing Nightmare. I hope they put more talents for it in Dragonflight, so congratulations to all the Shadow Priests. Yeah, getting exactly what they wanted here.
Frank responded to a tweet, and I was confused. I couldn't tell if he was being sarcastic or serious, and now it looks like the answer is certainly sarcastic, because I didn't read what the changes were about Shadow. But now we're hearing that as a Searing Nightmare change, I understand why he would be mad.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the spec needed AoE damage. Again, it's sort of like the Moonkin thing, right? Where it's like they're slapping on a Band-Aid. This time it's a bigger Band-Aid, but maybe the playstyle is worse or whatever.
Yeah, no, their play style is bad.
But it's like, look, we want to change this for Dragonflight. In the meantime, we want to make it a little bit less bad, which good, right? I think this is a good spec to choose to do that for.
Like a lot of the issues come down to like the nerfs of dots and dot specializations, through like BFA, and then the Blizzard committing to target capping a bunch of classes coming into Shadowlands. It was kind of a weird phenomenon where like Moonkin and Shadow and Affliction and all like these classes with dots were uncapped, but then their AoE playstyles were just like set up to not be that great.
Yeah, it was like you could dot as many things as you wanted to, but it didn't do anything anymore.
Nobody wanted it. Yeah, it's like, oh, thank God I get to dot these many targets.
Destro, big changes here. A lot of buffs to single target, especially some of it's only in PvE, but then Blasphemy is no longer going to grant Reign of Chaos, making a large nerf to their M+ AoE here.
See, this one I'm most curious about, because I think this is a big enough nerf to where it could mean they're still one of the best AoE specs, or it could mean they're out of the meta completely, depending on how it goes at the new gear level.
I have a question. Do you find that playing with a Warlock sucks, Trell? Yes or no?
No, I love playing with a Warlock. They bring a lot of good stuff. There's like infinite stuns, first of all.
Okay.
And they don't even DR each other, which is awesome. And then there's Hellstones, which are like full heals for a tank. And Gateways are really nice too, and they just never die.
Why do you hate playing with a Warlock, Dettles?
Oh, I just feel like they don't do anything. I was just asking what Trell's opinion was.
Okay.
Like with Reign of Chaos, they're going to be summoning far fewer Infernals now. So, I mean, they're going to have a lot less passive stuns if that was one of your big things for them. But
yeah, that's true.
If you actually genuinely like playing with them, I'm interested, because I always feel like they're kind of bystanders in keys. Because yeah, sure, they have Blasphemy stuns, but then they only have Shadow Fury and like Hellstone.
It is nice though whenever you're looking at like the party frames, right, and the Warlock just never needs healing.
That is cool. True. Yeah. Their self survivability is pretty good.
I'd say their utility is actually pretty good, even without the major application of all those AoE stuns for free. Like we've had some crucial banish targets in these Shadowlands dungeons, like all over the dungeons. There's good banishes. There's really good fear application uses for like getting an ad that I can't get to out in Narnia. Shadow Fury is a great AoE stun by itself too. You can plan on it without the procs. I don't know. I think they have a lot of good stuff.
AoE stuns are actually kind of hard to come by.
Banish and in old Plague Fall and stuff. Actually, I don't know if there's good banish targets in like Karazhan or anything. So maybe not next season.
I've always kind of been of the opinion, like if Warlock's going to be meta, it's more likely going to be Affliction. But we'll see. I think that Destro will probably still be good. Just looking at the numbers on this, like they're going to be, noticeably worse. But I think they may still be in the meta a little bit.
Oh, I didn't even mention the Dispels and Purges. Warlock has a lot of good shit.
Although those dungeons are, I don't know if there are any dungeons that those will be valuable in the new rotation. Maybe. Don't remember.
Yeah, maybe. I can't remember in the Karazhan's if there's any like big Dispels.
And finally, Prot Warrior, they're buffing Ignore Pain's Absorption, and they're changing the cap to be 30% of your maximum health was twice the Ignore Pain Absorb value. So actually, I think the cap is going to be lower than it used to be. Not 100% sure.
Is that really? Is that true?
There's no way this is not a buff.
The absorption's going up, but I don't know what the old twice the Ignore Pain Absorb. I thought you could get more than like 30% of a health bar. Maybe you could get around the same amount. I don't know.
I thought it read like cap was going up, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it reads like the cap is going up. There's no way that they're not buffing Protection Warrior.
They said the improved survivability in those situations, while the change to the cap will constrain its strength otherwise. That's
that was confusing wording. I don't know.
Yeah, they updated the notes. It didn't used to. It just said based on maximum health before, and now it says 30% of maximum health. I feel like 2 ignore pains gets you over that, so I feel like the second ignore pain without taking damage will hit you into the cap fairly early into it, but I'm not 100% sure.
You had permanent ignore pain already, didn't you?
Well, ignore pain is like a shield, right? So you would press it. Yeah, like if you're not hitting into the cap, then... But if you're hitting into the cap, then that's wasted value. Yeah. I mean, I do think this will function as a buff, but I think the absorb cap definitely might constrain how much value you can get out of this. And it'll make it important to, like, not be pressing it while you have a bunch of ignore pain already. So we'll see. I'm not sure. Yeah, I was thinking it was going to be a larger cap than 30% of max health when they first said based on max health. But yeah, either way, a little buff to Prot Warrior.
I've seen some Prot
It's
Warriors
either a little buff or a
pretty
big buff. Yeah.
That spec does infinite damn. That spec does the most damn I've ever seen out of a tank, by the way.
You being an execute or just in general? Because their execute's insane, yeah.
Their execute, like in particular, is unbelievably high. Like
yeah, there's some logs of Jailer kills where Prot Warrior is the highest DPS and P4 of Jailer.
I guess in general they're probably on par, maybe a little bit worse than like DK, but I don't know, man. Their damn is actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's something we'll have to look out for. Maybe Prot Warrior will be good enough with this Magic Dam survivability increase to be meta. Who knows?
They also can wear Gaffle.
True.
Do not do that.
Don't take off your shield.
All right, let's talk quickly about trinkets and stuff, because one thing that they're changing is, first of all, they're taking like IQD, blood spattered scale, and just putting them into the dirt real quick so that we don't have to use those at 278.
Pull up the Wowhead one, the all items change thing in our show notes. It has like basically every item.
Okay.
It's a little bit better than just reading massive text wall, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so nerfed scale and IQD, buffed the drop rate of Edge Knight and Racial Air, and then buffed Genesis Lathe, Sepulchre Savior, a bunch of trinkets that nobody used, Shadowed Orb of Torment, mastery buff.
Out with IQD, in with Orb of Torment.
This was already good pre-buff when it was a current trinket as well, so...
all the caster trinkets from Sanctum were doo-doo. So
yeah.
They were all really bad.
Old Warrior Soul nerf by not enough to change how it being Super Bis, I don't think. I believe this will continue to be
still
Super
be good,
Bis.
yeah.
Oh, no. I wonder if I have to play Ocular Gland again. Oh, despair.
Maybe. And then also buffs to, again, a bunch of other trinkets, including Pulsating Rift Shard. The charge is being reduced down to 1.5 seconds before it fires. So maybe a scale replacement at one point. Remember when this was 4 seconds when it first came out? They buffed it now down to 1.5.
Still too long for a tank to
to press
get meaningful defensive chaining out of it. You know, like as a tank player, you need to chain defenses a lot of times to live. And if you got a plan at 1.5 seconds ahead, and for the mobs to be still every single time for that, it's still kind of rough.
So yeah, most of these buffed effects I don't think are going to see use even post buff. I think Shadowed Orb of Torment's the exception here. And yeah, nerfing the old last season M+1 so that those aren't bis at 278 for anybody, or even like so that it just doesn't feel bad to upgrade them early in the season, I think is really good. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I don't know what you guys think about any of these trinkety stuff though.
I mean, I think that the reasoning for nerfing a bunch of nerfing like the dungeon stuff and then buffing up a bunch of the raid stuff, I think is totally reasonable change, because
I like it.
Basically, they don't want you wearing like a 262 from base M0 or or if you had like a 278 from your Great Vault, they don't want that to be perma-bis for the remainder of the patch. That's the reason that they've stated.
Which IQD might have been at 278.
I would I would still be wearing, like Moonkin would still be wearing it and the whole entire patch.
One slightly weird thing, now that you'll be able to purchase whatever weapon you want with the deterministic loot thing, Gavel of the First Arbiter is actually a rather powerful effect, even if you don't benefit from the strength on the item. Former guest of the podcast, Hippo, has a sim showing that it is, in fact, the bis weapon for feral druids. And I believe it will be, like, you can weapon swap into this and then use it, and then weapon swap off back for your Agi, I think, as well, right? Mid-combat, so...
Yeah, you can at least swap out of it after you use it.
Oh, yeah, you could use it on pull and then swap off.
Because I did that in season 2 as Windwalker with the two-hander from
Right.
Sanctum.
So it was like once per dungeon you could do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So
not-
you use
you
it on the
wouldn't be able
first
to-
pull or the first minute of the raid boss.
You wouldn't be able to do that as Feral because it's a two-hander and they can't use one-handers at all, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, maybe you can't.
Well, maybe
Although
you
I
could
don't
do
know
it.
if that
Maybe you
rule
could
is
do it with the
specific
old
to the-
Legion legendary Fangs of Ashmain in your bags.
If they're gonna actually start equipping fangs during the fight, like there's something wrong. They may as
I
well
guess that
just
doesn't
wear
work. Yeah.
that sim's not even swapping weapons. That sim is just
Just
wearing
using it. Yeah.
gavel. Yeah.
Yeah, and similarly, Brewmaster
Yeah.
might be interested. Other Agi users might be interested in the old
Windwalker
Gavel of the
too.
First Arbiter. So, be curious to see if Blizzard cares about that.
Can
That
survival
does-
use one-handers? I don't think so, right?
No.
No.
You could put on a bow, I guess, but then you'd have a bow. So, because they swapped to the
Okay, so
Silk bow,
Feral
right?
technically can wear offhand, so maybe they would be able to like swap. I don't know.
Yeah, put an offhanded. Because Serv uses Sylph bow, like on that pull at the start of the last room in Gambit. They were swapping to the Sylph bow, right?
Yeah, they were
So-
silencing everything and then swapping back. Apparently, you have
Yeah.
to do that 30 seconds in advance, though.
Right. Yeah.
I heard Genji talking about it on stream yesterday.
Yeah,
and
you
that's-
swap like right at the end of Hooktail, right, and then is ready when you get to that pole.
Yeah,
That was sick during teams doing that during the MDI and then
Yeah.
bouncing like full packs.
that
and
was
stuff.
cool. That gave me the Legion flashbacks of gear swapping to really cool things mid-run.
Yeah, it's a cool thing, but hopefully the gavel does not remain BIS for non-strength users. I wouldn't mind seeing a gavel nerf TBH because they could nerf that and it would still be BIS. This is as somebody who hasn't gotten to play with the gavel yet and will get to play with one next season. But-
Dragnos making every single warrior across the world incredibly upset
Dude,
right
they
now. Like,
they already
that
like
gavel
again they
needs
can nerf it and it could still be BIS. Like it is really really good. But nerfing it so that non-strength users don't want it at least would I think be good.
Agreed.
to-
Yeah.
I'm trying to say. Are you
Anyways,
surprised that Edge of Night isn't getting nerfed? By the way, I feel like that. I was shocked to not see that weapon getting nerfed.
I don't personally like. I don't know. To me, like strong items from the old raids saying strong is fine.
Okay.
It's just like to me the weird part is like if a Windwalker is putting on an Edge of Night, then we have a problem. And similarly, like if a Feral Druid or a Windwalker is putting on a Gavel, I think we have a problem.
I don't think that they could wear daggers.
Yeah, but
Can
if
anyone
they,
actually wear daggers? I don't know.
if a Shadow Priest is putting on an Edge of Night, then we have a problem,
Okay,
right?
Shadow Priest.
Those are the cases where it's like, oh, this kind of is weird.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
But-
I don't know. I think it's okay if it's tuned high. I mean, Gavel's insane. I don't think Edge of Night's as good as Gavel is for DK.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I guess with the dinars or whatever, you can.
Because everybody can have it, right? Yeah, everybody
yeah,
can,
you can just
buy it.
force it. Only people that are wearing it are rogues, anyways, and like you can just target nerfs at rogues. I guess if there's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, if there is a problem, I think you can nerf it. And they have said like, hey, we don't want people to be scared of buying stuff because we'll nerf it later. So we're trying to like front load all the balance changes. So
Oh yes, yes.
hopefully if they decide they're going to want to nerf Edge of Night, they do it now or in the next 2 weeks before people start buying them with their dinars. But even I mean, it would probably be a case of like even if they nerfed it, it would still be BIS. So whatever. Anyways. Season 4 coming soon. I'm pretty excited for it. I'm actually looking forward to this season quite a bit. Oh, there's also the blue post. Or not the blue post, but the Skarzard post that has other info. Conduits, for instance.
Ooh, I'm surprised with
No.
this change.
Oh,
No conduits, basically. Conduits are staying at 278. And the Vessel of Profound Possibilities now costs 10,000 Cosmic Flux and doesn't have any other requirements.
Yeah, so they're removing
so you can
the-
just buy them on alts.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're removing the rating requirement, and then
But-
like with the change that you can move Cosmic Flux across characters. I mean, it's pretty good.
It's worth noting that at least before you needed to buy 4 vessels in order to get all of your Covenant conduits up to 278 if you wanted to play the other Covenants. So, because it only did whichever one you were active
yeah.
on at a time.
Oh, I
Well,
forgot about that.
Okay, so now conduits drop at 278 from dungeons, and so
Well,
That's-
they drop at 278 from Tazavesh. They don't drop from the other dungeons. Because the other dungeons don't
Oh,
have
you're right,
conduits in
they're
their
removing
loot
the
table.
dungeons.
So it's only the ones that are in
Interesting.
Tazavesh at
oh,
278.
you're right. That actually just completely. I was thinking Covenant. Oh shit!
Either way,
Wait,
I mean,
where's-
it'll be fine.
It is.
Where's
fine.
the Cosmic Flux vendor at? Is he the one in Ouroboros, the flight guy?
Haven, I think, is where you buy the BOA Cosmic Flux. I think.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Other related sort of thing, legendaries are staying at 291. So the play pattern is going to be to craft your legendary. Once you get some good items, you're going to want your legendary to be in a low stat budget slot, like bracers, rather than a high stat budget slot, like legs or chest or whatever, because it will be your lowest item level piece instead of your highest item level piece.
Thank God I
That's
still have it on my
weird.
belt. God bless.
Legendaries being your lowest item level item, that's just
Well-
eventually that's gonna be super weird.
I think Blizzard has decided that they've taxed people enough with this legendary
Well,
crafting.
so what they did in Legion, when Legion came out, legendaries were 890, I think, and so was mythic gear. And then there were cases of people not wanting to put on legendaries, especially like my first legendaries were Agrimar's Stride, Cephas's Secret pre-buff, and Prydaz pre-buff, which those were all very bad items. And so literally it was a downgrade for me to put on even a second legendary between Cephas and Prydaz on my character because they were just the same item level as my mythic pieces and bad stats. So what Blizzard did was, to address this, they just bumped up legendary eye level all to 910, and that fixed it. They could just do that again. They could just bump up all legendaries from 291 to 315 or whatever, and then that fixes this problem without having to spend more money. Because right now, as it stands, everybody's going to have to, if you care about being optimal, you are going to have to recraft off of high budget slots into low budget slots.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
almost certainly due to like people complaining about how expensive legendaries have been across the whole expansion, right? That they're not making you recraft. That seems like that.
Well,
that's the only
It's
reason.
worth noting, you do have to recraft if you want to be optimal with this change, and with my change, you wouldn't have to recraft. So
Okay, yeah, I guess.
if you care about not wanting to recraft, it depends on if you care about leaving a little bit of DPS on the table. Because if you're wearing like 291 pants or something compared to 311s that are in your bags, like that's 20 eye levels of stat budget on pants. That is quite a bit of damn.
Are
You are going to want to
advising
craft
people
off
to-
that.
Are you advising people to lobby for your position here to
Yeah.
get them to change this? Okay.
Yeah, they
I
like
was trying to figure out what you were saying exactly.
Blizzard should make it so that they should just take all the existing items and just bump them up to 315 from 291, and bang, problem solved. No new crafting still, and actually no new crafting, because right now gonna have to buy a lot of 291 bracers on all your characters if you care about. Again, it's probably a couple hundred DPS, but if you care about a couple hundred DPS, that is something you'll be doing next season.
Legendaries are like 15k right now, the shells, aren't they?
It depends on the server. Some servers they are worse than others, but yeah.
Yeah, well, bracers and ring probably, right?
Yeah,
Oh, there's so
the-
many good rings though. I don't
The
know.
rings are, you might want your Mechagon rings, so you might also be crafting off of your ring slots.
No, I gotta figure out where
This is gonna be
my
tough to decide.
legendary now because it's on my ring. Fuck.
Yeah, so
Oh.
because all of the old M plus items are still going to be in, so there are either primary stat rings from WoD, or Mechagon proc rings, or most regal signet of Sire Denathrius, which slows down your Eye of the Jailer gain if you want that. So
Yeah,
you know,
that's,
you gotta-
that's a contender.
all three of these different powerful rings that you can get, you got to decide which one is the most powerful effect for you.
This guy just unironically leaned into his microphone to explain that to you.
The most regal signet. There's no signet as regal as
You know,
it.
I was literally asking Tuttles something about some weird item right before the show, and he was like, "I don't know. Dranos probably knows about it. He always knows about the weird stuff."
Yeah, I love weird items.
Oh, it was never mind. It was about one of our Q&A questions. I go, Dranos will explain it. He knows all about stupid stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's me. And then the other, I guess the last thing in here is just do an 18 time an 18 or deplete a 19 if you want a 15 in your box next week. There's no heroic week or mythic week or anything like that, so doing 15s early next week will be a very good source of gear and valor and stuff. So if you're trying to gear up in season 4, that's going to be a good way to do it.
That'll be nice, actually. No
Yeah.
downtime. Like, there's usually a period where you just can't get better gear than, like, basically heroic raid gear. I think we're just jumping straight into mythic gear this tier, and Valor's uncapped right away, so you can just farm to your heart's content.
Yeah, because a lot of seasons it's like I do 40 keys in the first week, hit my 750 Valor cap, and then never go above it for the rest of the season, basically, because it's like, okay, well, now I don't need it anymore. So it'll be fine. I get why they don't do it normally, but it's nice that they don't have to this season.
Yeah.
All right, I think that about does it for our look at season 4. If you're interested, there we'll put the posts in the description and stuff, and I've made some videos on my YouTube if you want more, just going through all the notes and stuff, but not too much. I don't think we need to go into like all of these bullet points because most of them are pretty minor or were already known. So let's move on to tip of the week. My tip of the week, for those of you that are fortunate enough to have alpha or that get alpha or beta in the coming weeks, is fairly frequently when you log in, you will find all of your talents are gone, which is very annoying because then you have to go through and reapply all your talents. But you can use the talent tree thing to save your talents in a talent profile, but that will also get reset if you log out in that profile. But if you make that and then you swap to a different talent profile, and then when you log back in, you swap back to the ones that you like, you will be able to kind of preserve your talents that way. So
Have you contemplated exporting it into a notepad document and saving it on your computer?
another good solution, another good idea. Yeah, of course, if they actually change your talent tree, which they are doing from time to time, this will kind of get bricked, but pretty often you're just logging in and your talents are reset and nothing has changed. So
So, Trell, what have you been doing for Monk?
I've been logging on alpha just to tank the new dungeons, and I just playing with old talents and getting owned by the mobs.
I mean, it makes sense, right? If you want to play Monk on Alpha, you're not going to have talents for 3 months anyway, so you got to get used to it.
Monk is
Yeah.
soon. Copium.
I'm going to bet that Monk is the last class. I swear it's
disagree.
going to be last.
I'll make a wager. I don't think it's gonna be the last class.
Okay.
It'll be soon.
You're on.
Ooh, poggers. I can't wait to see the DH one, actually. That's the one I'm most excited to see what exactly they put in there.
Fun. Dude, the Havoc leaks where it's like 4 talents total are so funny.
Dude, I'm so concerned about Havoc because like obviously they're gonna have an I-beam build. Obviously they're gonna have a momentum build. What else are they gonna have? Like literally
Throw
what
glaive.
else?
Little bloodlet action, perhaps?
They have to create stuff for that spec, don't they? Like
Maybe,
there's
yeah.
no way that they're gonna be able to. So most classes just have a lot of really cool recycled stuff, and even Monk has a bunch of stuff that's like old that they can bring back.
Yeah.
Havoc really does not have that much.
I hope they have the talent into Glide.
I bet they will. I bet Blizzard is going to put...
Barrage.
Yeah, Fel Barrage should be in
so,
there, yeah.
So
Dude,
they're
they
gonna
should put...
actually the blood of the enemy.
Right, no, they should do a choice node that's Blood of the Enemy or Focusing Iris, just so that I can go back to having to explain why I think Blood of the
that'd be
Enemy is
sick.
better every stream.
Put blood of the enemy and focusing iris in their tree. That would be so funny.
Unironically, why not? Like, that sounds cool. They should do that.
It would be fun.
Okay, Trell, what is your tip of the week?
So mine has to do with season 4. So starting next week, you'll start getting access to these dinar coins. Is that how you say it? Well, I don't even know. But you get 3 of them per season per character. So you got to choose wisely what you spend them on. And you can get any item from any of the raids. I'm assuming you get 1 from completing each raid wing each week. So probably like 1 coin next week if you full clear the raid in some sort.
I think they said it's like 4.5 to 5 weeks to get all 3 of them, and it's kind of like backloaded. So I don't know if you'll be able to buy something the first week, but
Never mind. Well, anyway, once you get them, you want to choose wisely because you only get 3 shots at using them the whole season. So a lot of the items you're going to want to look at are the like special weapons or trinkets, and a lot of them were buffed or mentioned today in this podcast before this in the Wowhead post and the Blue post and all that. So look through those items. Like for Monk, I'm picking a Vein Ripper for sure from Painsmith, and then the Aegis and the RDM trinkets, all from Sanctum for Brewmaster. For DK, Blood DK, people are probably going to pick Gavel, Old Warrior Soul, and then a third something or another.
Old Warrior Soul got nerfed, but still broken, I heard.
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's probably still the play.
You're not going to purchase yourself a Gavel on your Brewmaster, Trell?
No, I'm not doing
Because you can get you could drop the other weapons, but you're not going to be able to drop a Gavel. I don't know.
Can you even purchase a Gavel's approval? Like, is that even allowed?
I don't know. Maybe. Either way, yeah, definitely. Like going through and figuring out what to buy is going to be a good thing to do. Worst
Monk
case,
can't use two-handed mace.
what? Oh, unlucky.
It's a mace, isn't it?
I didn't know Monk can use maces.
Yeah, actually, that's true. I don't know if you can even use it.
They can use pole arms and.
I thought they could use maces.
Can Feral use maces?
Yeah, I mean, Hippo's running a sim with
Balance.
it.
Yes, because Balance can use a two-handed mace. So it's.
Do you think Balance should use Gavel the First Arbiter? That'd be pretty cool. I don't know.
I don't know the numbers.
That sounds fun. Do you think Resto could use it profitably? Maybe.
I'm texting JB right now.
Maybe.
It's a lot of damage. I don't know if you get the right proc.
Dude,
Anyways,
there's no way I'm using Gavel.
Tettles, shall we take a look now at this clip entitled "The Tettles Incident"? Do I want sound for this, or is that does a picture?
I think it speaks for itself.
Okay, let's see what's going on here. Oh, you're playing a little evoker.
This is Ultimate Legacy of Tyr.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh. Let's run that one again. Yeah, the old hover, wrong side of the thing, deep breath. Deep breath always moves slower than you think it will. Yeah. Unlucky.
Is there any way to animation cancel that ability?
No. You're like hard locked. Nothing can stop you while you're deep breathing.
That's why I take my hands off. My hands are off the keyboard the moment I press the button because like I realize what I've done. Like the moment I press it, I'm like, oh, I'm dead. Oh, I'm so dumb.
I think that's gonna happen a lot. That's a long lockout for moving at all.
Like that in particular, I've died twice to that in particular, where you just like press it because the robot activates 2 or 3 seconds before you see the line, and you're thinking, oh, I'm safe, and then you just slam it, and then the line shows up, and you're like, oh no, you just go straight into it.
Yeah, good times. All right, let's talk about alpha. On that note, we have the phase 3 of the alpha test, which we're not sure how many phases there are going to be right before they kind of just open it up more or go into beta or whatever. But phase 3, we've got the Waking Shores testable now. You can still test the Evoker starting area, but the Azure Span is not available for testing, which was one of the phase 1 things. The Ruby Life Pools dungeon's been added, and you can still test Neltharis and Uldaman. Dragon riding talent tree is in, and they also nerfed dragon riding a little bit. They made it a little bit less responsive, a little bit more like you have to your turn radius basically is like lower. And they also added mage, prop pally, and ret pally, although notably not holy pally, to the talent revamps this week. So I don't know, how's everybody been feeling about the latest offering of stuff on the alpha?
So I've leveled all the way through the zone, done all the quests that are available. I think for some reason they've given us 180. We're like 180 item level or something like that, and it's very hard to quest through the zone at 180 item level. I suspect at 315 it will be a lot easier if I'm one-shotting mobs.
Yeah,
I think overall the zone's pretty cool. I think that how you learn dragon riding in the new zone also, like it's just like a couple of quests, and you just end up learning dragon riding. I think that's also pretty nice. I've liked both of the zones questing wise so far. Not a big quester though, I will admit. Not something I'm well known for. They did change dragon riding. Have you guys tested that yet?
Nope.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like again, the turn radius being slower. It seemed fair to me. Obviously, it's like nerfed, but it seemed like a reasonable thing to nerf, especially because they're giving us a talent tree that like buffs dragon riding over time, right? As we unlock it.
I haven't seen the talent tree. What is all in the dragon riding talent tree?
It wasn't working for me earlier when I tried to like open it in the zone, but
okay.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find a screenshot of it.
Okay. But yeah, so basically, it's kind of similar to like a progression system. Think, like Pockapoc's thing in Zereth Mortis, kind of something similar to that, where you're able to just like gain buffs or whatever for dragon riding, whether it be more of the Führer or whatever.
Okay, yeah, I can't find a good screenshot of it, but yeah, it is pretty similar to like. I would say the Cypher's kind of got a lot of boring dud talents on it, but yeah, it seems like it's going to be actually a pretty cool system, and you get these like glyphs for increasing it and stuff. So, I
still kind of wish you could use like attune your own personal dragon mount. So I understand why that there are issues with it. So like. There'd be like animation problems is what I have to guess would be a lot of the problems. But it would be cool, I think, if you could like attune dragon mount specifically to it.
Yeah, I think they should, like a fairly high priority should be going back and at least rigging all the dragons to be dragon riding compatible. And probably long term, just every mount that's not ridiculous to have it should get it too, because like it's so much better.
I mean, it's gonna be really tough to rig it for other models. I think it's a model issue at the end of the day with like a lot of the stuff like the rise and
like like the flying carpet and the flying machine, those kind of things. The disc, maybe you can never make dragon riding look good on those, but for the ones that they can, I do think it should be a reasonably high prio, because I think dragon riding should be possible everywhere, and it should just kind of replace regular flying for. I mean, you could still use regular flying in the old zones, but like dragon riding is so much more fun. I think they should make it everywhere because it's that good. There's also the Ruby Life Pools dungeon that was there on Alpha. Dettle's your group looking much like most groups or Trell's group rather, looking much like most groups in this with 3 or more evokers and a tank. Yeah. This dungeon's a fairly interesting one because we were talking about Uldaman being like a 5-boss dungeon. This is a 3-boss dungeon, and the last 2 bosses have no trash between them as well. It's just boss. So very short dungeon in comparison. Probably going to be like a 30-minute M+ timer tops, maybe less. I'm not sure.
Blast is on 2x speed. We're probably going to see the end of the dungeon while we're still talking about this if it's on 2 times speed. So basically, I feel like the trash in here is fairly solid. So there are whelps kind of similar to Darkheart Thicket that spawn from like these eggs. But I think the biggest notable thing, like Dratno said, is just the short timer. If I had to guess, this timer is going to be like 20 minutes at the most. We've all tested it, I think.
Yeah. I don't know what timer they'll put on it. Because like
I'm betting it'll be a 30-minute. I feel like they're not going to do less than 30-minute timers.
There is no way that this is a 30-minute dungeon. I just don't. I don't feel like there is any world where they can make this dungeon 30 minutes with the amount of trash density that is in this key.
Yeah, but I mean, would they want a timer to be lower than like 20?
Maw was 24.
30 minutes.
Maw was 24, and this is half. Maw was 24, and this is half of Maw of Souls.
I don't think this is half of Maw of Souls. I think it's about a Maw of Souls.
I'd say it's about the same as Maw. I mean, we were cruising through it. It's heroic. Like we were killing the big mobs in like 20 seconds. You know.
Okay, so we were talking about this pre-show. One of the biggest, I really do like this dungeon. I think that it has good mob diversity. The only concern that at least I have for this dungeon initially is it going to be too short? Is it going to be one of those dungeons that either really dominates the meta, where like it's the only key that pugs end up doing because it's so short, or because it's like it's just the Maw of Souls effect where like it ends up just being the only key that pugs do. And in addition to that, is it going to kind of feel bad to play as seasons go on because the route is so defined that the replayability of the dungeon is just not as good because like you're not getting anything new every single season?
Yeah, I don't know. The more I think about it, I feel like it's not quite as short as we feel like. Like the first wing is this big hatchery wing with the big mini boss that we're pulling here on the screen at the end of the wing. Then the first boss finally.
But I feel like you do this in like 4 pulls and M+ probably tops, right? Like
so there's like 4 pulls down here, right? Mm-hmm. On like a hard
on a hard dungeon. Key,
and like, then you do the first boss. Then you have like at least 4 pulls up top because there's like shards of Halkias style mobs after this boss coming up, and then you've got the last 2 bosses. But yeah, I don't know. I can see it going either way.
A good point in chat is it will be rotated out after one season.
Yeah, we don't know if this will even be in the first season or not, right? Yeah, it might not be.
That's actually a really good point. So, like the replayability factor, the fact that it does get rotated out, and we will probably only see it like 2 or 3 seasons at the most, that is something that I think is a bit more positive for a dungeon like this because it is so polarizing in the sense of like, oh, it's super short. A lot of the dungeons that we've seen aren't that long. Like, I don't think you're going to have something that's over, like maybe Uldaman is going to be over 40 minutes, but even still,
even Uldaman, like, Uldaman is, aside from the 4th to the 5th boss, I was looking through it earlier, and it's like 2 trash pulls between most of the bosses in that dungeon.
I've done that dungeon like a bunch. I didn't realize that there were 3 checkpoints.
They changed it. They changed it.
Oh, they added more?
Yeah, they added it. So there's 3 mole machines now.
Wow,
in this week,
feedback went through so fast.
Yeah,
I got DM'd yesterday, and somebody was telling me that there are 3 checkpoints, 3 mole machines now, and I was like,
yeah, it's new. There was only one the first week.
Props to Blizzard for putting that in. That's awesome. That's a good sign.
You do need somebody with mining in your group to make use of them. So,
or you kill them, or you kill
them, right?
The rock has so much health though, even on heroic. Like if that health is scaling with M+, that's a minute commitment to kill that thing.
You just pull the bats on top of it.
Yeah, the rocks for funnel. It's fine. You just keep pulling on top of the rock.
Maybe.
I'm with Trell here. I agree.
Maybe, yeah. This area was kind of cool in Ruby Life Pools, right? That the upper ring where the elementals and the flame guys like do a big AoE when they're dying. At least the flame guys in particular with the swirlies to dodge was kind of fun.
I
Yeah,
really did not
this was a
mind
cool area. I think
Yeah.
tanks are going to be in hell in this area, though. You're like constantly getting assaulted by new mobs because you have to keep moving from these circles, and they're all casters.
Yeah, there's
Every
a
single
lot of
mob.
casters. Yeah, the flame reavers, or not the flame reavers, but the cinder weavers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder like how are you going to do this kind of similar to Motherload where you're just going to be stuck in combat for 6 minutes? Is it something that you're just going to continue to pull these small fire Ellies and then just continue to just group up this pack and just never drop combat and force your healer to conserve mana? Like, what's really going to be the meta play for this kind of thing? Because I feel like that makes sense because you're limited here by these big fire Ellies. And so I heard people call this dungeon something like Halls of Atonement. I don't feel like it's similar to Halls of Atonement at all. The only mechanic in here that's similar is you have to kill those big elementals to be able to summon the second boss. So it's kind of got the Shards of Halkias-esque.
Yeah, but there's really, it's not like got the whole like open area with choice of what to pull type thing. Like it is a pretty
Yes.
linear dungeon.
Yeah, this is a completely linear dungeon.
Trill, what did you think about checkpoints in this dungeon? We talked about it whenever we were doing the dungeon.
Yeah, the checkpoint is in here is kind of rough. I mean, I think if they moved it up, it'd be fine, but it's right before the RP flight at the bottom. So right after you kill the first boss, that's your only checkpoint. And every time you die, you have to AFK on a dragon for 30 seconds going up to the top. So I think if they just put the checkpoint at the top, it'd be fine. I think that'd be perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of like Necrotic Wake, where you die and you have to like take the angel again. I don't mind one checkpoint in this dungeon after first boss, but I do think that the flight, especially like if you died on the opposite side of the ring, like now we're talking about like a minute run back, which is probably a little bit more than it needs to be, but I don't know, for a dungeon this size, like you don't need a checkpoint after every boss necessarily here. That's fine.
Right. Imagine the Necrotic Wake checkpoint, but on top of having to do the flight up, you also have to mount up and then walk across the entire ring after.
Yeah, if you died like on the opposite side of the ring, that's definitely like the worst case spot to die in. Last boss was also pretty fun as well. The last boss had a lot of mechanics actually for a boss fight, right? Like you have a lot of stuff to dodge and winds blowing you around and swirlies to like manage and void zones to manage on the ground. So I actually thought this fight was one that would be pretty fun, like just a kind of hard fight.
I have a question. Did like basically every single boss in all of the dungeons that we've done so far, all of them just do infinite damage, right? They require like a surprising amount of healing for heroic dungeons.
Yeah,
do you mean like group healing or tank healing?
Group healing in particular. Well,
usually group healing. This one in particular, tank healing. This one was a tank buster.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been my experience as well. I quite liked it though. I think, damage like having some healing to do is a good thing. I don't know.
Oh, look, we finished the dungeon. We're
done
talking about it.
Yeah, that was super fast.
All right. Other stuff on the alpha. We've got the talent trees, the mage tree. Mage is not too happy, I think, with their tree. Generally, especially the class trees, there's kind of a feeling of like too many 3-point nodes, too much stuff we already have in weird spots. Weird talents coming back in weird spots, like weird talents in spots that are easy to get to, good stuff in spots that are hard to get to. So Mage is hoping to see some iteration there. Paladin, on the other hand, we've got, actually not Holy, obviously, because that one's not in, but Paladin's getting like spell warding for non-prot pallies is available. So that's kind of,
spell warding for H-Pal is kind of
that's big. Yeah.
That's really big.
I like that. I think that Paladin getting that as an option is so cool.
Yeah.
They also get a shorter Hammer of Justice dodge.
I will say that
they got a kick now too.
Yeah, Holy Pally does, yeah.
Are you worried that this kind of bumps prop paladin out of the meta? So that was one of the like defined niches for a while. Is like if you really wanted to spell warding, you had to bring that prop paladin
for raid or for keys.
For raid, for keys, for keys it's always subjective. But for raid in particular, like if you wanted that spell warding, it was really powerful on some bosses. Like you had to bring the prop paladin, and that was just something you had to give up. Now with it being on holy, is that like a lot worse for prot?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I think spell warding is the like hugest thing that prop pally could bring up until now.
Yeah, definitely something I'm a little bit worried about for prop pally in raid.
It's just meta speculation, right?
Yeah, like I mean, the thing is, like, usually it was like one fight that spell warding was good on, and it was like, oh, we have a prop pally already. We're happy here. So, I don't know. That may go away, because now it'll be just a case of like, oh, there's a fight where spell warding is good. One of our paladins will play spell warding, and it will be fine. Okay, we also have Warrior news. Odin's Fury is returning. We don't know for sure, but it's been data mined. So Odin's Fury, the iconic Legion ability coming back. Test of Might, the Arms Azurites trait, also looks like it's in the data mined, although we don't actually know what the trees look like for these. And finally, Skull Banner has been data mined here. Skull Banner, a 10-second buff for party members within 20 yards that grants them 20% increased critical strike damage, creating a potential supergroup of 4 warriors and 1 enhancement shaman doing ridiculous amounts of damage with 66% uptime on Skull Banner.
Okay. So I know we talked about like raid buffs a lot, but the more like raid and party buffs they add, the more acceptable it becomes. I will say I would prefer it if they would have homogenized down and removed this kind of thing, but at least they're tripling down and adding a lot more to where it feels like you're gonna just like I'm looking at Nagi was tweeting at projected raid groups. There's just one of everything basically. I think that like DK probably needs something, Hunter needs something, and then at that point it's like okay, everybody's bringing some buff, and so you're gonna at least feel obligated to bring something in some form.
Yeah, we'll take a little bit of like a Jenga project now, or Tetris project, actually slot the right people into the right 5-player groups, because some of them are party-specific buffs, right? Like the Skull Banner thing. But yeah, I mean, it's very powerful for sure. We don't know, again, we're not 100% sure if or how it's returning. It's just been data mined, but yes, very powerful for sure.
Because now, what have they added? They added Skull Banner, they added, the Outlaw Rogue has one, Assassination actually just has a raid buff.
Yeah, it has Devo. Devo poison. Don't mind if we do.
Druid's got Mark of the Wild back.
Devo poison.
Yeah.
Actually, what that is.
That's what it is.
What else have they added? All Shaman specs can now talent into Wind Fury, right?
No. Wind Fury is still enhancement.
Okay, so Wind Fury is only enhancement.
Wind Rush has gotten a lot better. Like, you can totemic projection Wind Rush around and have... Like, Wind Rush is better. If you only need 1 Wind Rush for full coverage on a Painsmith style intermission, for instance, now.
I am worried that there's only gonna be like 5 slots on a raid boss that are flexible in any meaningful capacity. Which
I also think this would be worse than not having any of them, but it is better than like 30 specs having stuff is better than 10 specs having stuff. But 0 specs having stuff would be the ideal, I believe, for the purposes of like bringing the player and not the class, which
I mean
is what I think they should go back to.
If they're seriously, which they are, like if they're going to do this, they need to add something to Hunter. They need to add something to DK. Like they probably need to look at Shaman and add something to them, or at least the Ellie and the Resto to where they're not like completely left out to dry.
Yeah, if they're willing to like come in and especially like add raid buffs mid expansion to whichever specs are seeing like 0 representation, I think we could. I could be okay with it for sure.
I'm curious to see what it's going to be like to parse at the end of a tier with stuff like this, because like if you're melee, you gotta have a warrior in your group for banner. You gotta have an enhancement shaman for Windrush.
Skull Banner is it's a cooldown.
Outlaw Rogue.
And it only lasts for 10 seconds, so it's like more warriors the better. With Skull Banner, like each one is good. Outlaws, each one is good. So yeah, the optimal parsing strategy is like you want a party full of these party buffs, and then you want obviously like 5 priests in another party PIing you. It's gonna be it's
gonna be so degenerate.
This just negatively affects guilds that aren't ours, right? Like obviously we're just gonna play one of everything, but for mid-level mythic guilds who maybe just don't have access to optimal comps, it just makes their comps a lot worse, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. The whole parsing thing is like. It's whatever. Like I do not care about like, oh, somebody's got 60 buffs and they're doing twice as much damage. Like,
it's interesting.
It's interesting, yeah, but like that's not the negative. The people cite that as the negative here, and then they straw man it as the negative. But like the real negative is like there are some guilds that have 2 Havoc Demon Hunters, or some guilds that have 0 Havoc Demon Hunters, and it's like, oh, your comp sucks. You're doing 5% less damage than my guild with multi-classers that will always have the right number of all these things, and like my guild's already got players that are more hardcore, but like we don't need the help. Like we don't need the multi-classing into the perfect comp to be as good as it's going to be in this world. So yeah, that is the problem. But again, for us, obviously it's gonna be fine for us, right? We will have people roll into whatever the best comp is. It's easy.
We'll make alts or whatever. We'll make the comp. We will make the comp.
Yeah, but I wish it wasn't that way for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely, it's a lot harder than I think it needs to be.
Okay. I believe that's most of our stuff about Alpha this week. So let's do the Patreon thanking our wonderful supporters over on the Patreon. And then we've got some Q&A questions. So the Patreon supporters are Paul, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called Garbage Can, not Garbage Cannot. All my healer friends are excited to play Evoker, so I'm going to roll Paladin. Ja, Dratnos' Dino Pillow, Chromed, Trekkie, Chewy. Tettles tweets no class should get 3 points nodes, and then mages get 5 such nodes. Coincidence? ZivXX, Salty Zenny, Necris, Sinmora, Tankdill, Nevuk, Breadceratops, Eevee Survival Main. I seem a happy gamer. No Trick, I Forgot I Was Sub-Tier, Dymat, Lufer.
Shout out.
Rework Mistweaver. Check your Raider.io season recaps. It's like a yearbook for WoW. Nyx. Please let Mother Tettles know that she goes to some wild parties. Gallic, Brucev, Dratnos Ratserbis. This AOTC mount looks and sounds like a baby Halandris, Monka S. Msanity, Xena. Rogue is now good enough for Prague, still bad enough to be sat for SLG, bless up. Next week.
Current.
That will be current again, let's go.
Oh man, then we made it back.
Red Color, youtube.com/workbringer, Alphabet Soup, Druid Friends of Evolved Gaming, #1 Simsky for Trelsky. Dratnos needs to know about the Icosagon and the Engon. I got flamed for not interrupting in Arathi Basin Comstomp. Milk, Sife, Pone, Windwalker Monks deal with nerfs by rolling with the punches. Relevant.
We got nerfed this week. True.
Due to Sims with 4-piece, Skelly will be going back to Elemental from Enhance. And they did, in fact, have more of them talent trees.
They continue to have more of them talent trees.
Every week. Continues to be a relevant title.
Okay.
Man, I think they're struggling, though. The prot Pally release was so scuffed. Half of the prot abilities aren't even functioning correctly. And I think they just, like, barely got it done. And someone was like, oh, phew, I finished the talents. And then the next day, they're like, oh, shoot, I forgot to check if the abilities work.
Why are people so? Maybe you know more about this Dratnos than I do. Why are mages so up in arms about their talent tree? I feel it seems like there are a lot of them are complaining about like abilities that they view should be baseline as being forced to be talented into.
Yeah, so I think the mages in particular, it's like there's a lot of stuff that's in kind of awky places,
Capstone,
right? Like Shimmer's in kind of a weird spot that is going to cost a lot of points to get to. Rop, also. And then, like, yeah, Arcane, like, you've got Arcane Familiar that nobody's ever used. It's not particularly fun in a spot that's, like, very easy to access. Yep. And you've got Arcane Orb down here that's, like, tremendous pain to go and grab. You've got...
that Mana Gym one is so fake. That Mana Gym one is hilarious.
Yeah, so I think that's the main problem is, like, what trying to spend 30 points in here, you feel like you're stretched too thin, especially with the number of, like, 2-point nodes in kind of awkward places, although it's not as bad as some of the other specs. I think Frost has it even worse with or maybe these 3s all over the place that you kind of gotta chunk through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm not like I wouldn't be too doomer if I was a mage. They've been iterating fast on a lot of these talent trees.
Is there Icy Veins locked behind 3-point nodes? Hold on, can you is that Icy Veins at the bottom, or is that like improved?
This is Veins here, yeah. So you have to get one of these 2 3-pointers to get to Icy Veins.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh.
I mean, it's above the 20 line at least, right? So, yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the reason I think.
Okay. Checks out.
All right. Next question comes from Happy in Discord, who says, "Do you guys think Slime Cat should drop from LFR? I don't think LFR should drop anything, especially not a mount."
I don't know what the Slime Cat is. I'm going to be real honest. I was kind of hoping Dratnos knew.
I know, yeah. So Slime Cat there's a mount for doing the fated, every single boss on fated difficulty, but normal or higher. So if you do every single boss of all 3 raids on normal or higher, you get a mount. If you do it on heroic or higher, you get a title, Hero of Fates. And if you do it on mythic, you get teleports to the raids. So
I told you he knew what it was.
Yeah.
Dude, I told you he'd know.
And there's a blue post that says the Slime Cat does not come from LFR, despite the fact that the achievement wording says all difficulties, but a blue post clarified that didn't mean LFR.
Not a real difficulty. Chatting. Yeah,
so I don't care. I tried to care about this, and I mean, it seems like I wouldn't mind if LFR players could. Also, like, okay, imagine you're in a raid and like you miss a boss. You're like in a heroic guild or whatever. You're just not in for a boss, or a mythic guild or a normal guild, and you miss like Shriekwing. It would be nice to be able to just go and get the Shriekwing kill on LFR and just queue up for it and fill out your achievement that way. So that would be nice even for non-LFR players for getting this mount. But I don't know. I don't.
Does LFR ever drop mounts? Has that been a thing in the past?
I don't think so.
Did they
I
drop
have
the
no
boss?
idea.
I don't think they dropped the boss specific.
I don't think
mounts
so.
normally.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe I don't know. Like, I'm not one of somebody that's like, I mean, especially like gating something behind normal instead of LFR. It's like we're not talking about a huge distinction that we need to jealously guard here or anything like that. I don't know.
Chat is saying that raids in the past have dropped mounts from LFR, so maybe it should be included. I don't know. I'm not sure what to think about that.
Maybe there should just be like a specific thing that drops from LFR then.
I mean, items. That what LFR drops. I don't know.
Well, okay, but you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I guess it's not like I don't think there's really a should here. Like if Blizzard makes something a tier that has an LFR reward, fine. And if Blizzard makes tiers that don't have any LFR rewards, also fine. Like I don't know. I don't think there's a morally correct answer to this. I think
so people are just upset because they moved the goalpost.
So
they feel like the goalpost.
The achievement wording versus like there's conflicting wording in different places basically about this. Yeah,
and the mount is sick. By the way,
the mount is sick. Yeah, it's a slime cat.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I think the wording thing is the most accurate take. It's like if they hadn't just put it like that to begin with, I'm sure it'd be fine.
Next question comes from Lufer, who says meta speculation for M+ with the nerfs and buffs. So we did this already a little bit, but tank. Anybody want to take anything other than Blood DK? Going once.
Possibly Brawl Warrior. Really up in the air though, but
okay.
DK is gonna be good for sure.
Are you not a Brewmaster believer?
I mean, I think Brewmaster will still be a step behind DK. Nothing will change between the relationship of Brew to DK, I would say.
I think I'm gonna main Brew next season. Maybe do some keys because my co-tank has alphaed me off of Blood DK for raid, so I'll be playing the Brew next season.
Oh, is he gonna be doing keys as well?
I don't know. He's been having fun on DK, and I'm happy to just play whatever this season. So
Rogue Kick.
Yeah.
Kick.
Other than healer, still Holy Priest, we assume, even in these dungeons.
Paladin is good in some of these. Paladin is really good in the Legion, in the 2 Legion keys, both of the Karazhans. H-Pally broken.
How much of that was like Holy Paladin was just the good healer when those were current versus how much of it is like it's like I guess it works really well against Monroes, right?
I think
it's immunities is the biggest thing. It's like always immunities. So
2 areas require some immunities for sure. I mean, unless they randomly just nerf the hell out of Mana Worm and Moros, you're still going to want to have Bop and Bubble for both those bosses.
Mana Worm, if you got a DK, the AMS is really good there, right? Like that does a lot of the work. And Moros, everybody's playing Dwarf now. So
Tuttle's and I were actually talking about the Mana Worm DK thing. And back in Legion, there was a legendary that made it so your AMS had like half the CD.
I remember that, the cloak.
Yeah, which is why DK could soak every other round of orbs for free. But now I think DK can only do every third or so.
Oh, yes. Okay.
We had this is the revelation we had at lunch. I was like, oh wait, they can't even get every other now.
Interesting. Okay.
So
yeah.
For the Moros thing, the bleed on that fight is so insane that what the Pally could do was take the first 4 bleeds for free with Bop and Bubble because it always targets the healer first if nobody has a bleed.
And so you would bop yourself, remove a stack, and then the next one would target you into the bop and be immune. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you could actually do like 5 or 6 with File. Well, if Pally plays Kyrian and Dwarf. So I mean, Holy Pally in that dungeon will be absolutely insane if you can, as long as that bleed is still so overtuned.
They're also broken on Maiden. Like they're really really good on Maiden as well because of the immune on like the light phase where you'd have to take that dot. That dot like hit really really hard, and so they're able to immune that off as well. It's just the Legion dungeons in particular, Paladin quite strong. I'm not sure if they're going to be better than H-Priest. I'm not really willing to put that out into the world, but I do think that they have at least a very strong spot in those 2 keys.
And then for DPS, I feel like Mage Hyperthread wrist traps. Does anybody know if that's still good for Fire? I think because they have a different rotation than before, right? But I think that's still going to be rather good during combustion, right?
but it should be good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
Either way, I think Fire
Worried
Mage
about that.
probably is a beneficiary of the Destro nerfs. And maybe even Frost too. So for DPS, something like Windwalkers, Rogues, Serve Hunters, maybe still Destro locks, maybe Aflocks, maybe Mages of Fire or Frost. Not sure. Some combination of those sorts of specs would be my guess.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Something like that.
Checks out.
And Rogues if I didn't mention them. But yeah.
You did.
Okay, good. Especially without Cypher. All right. And that was the last question was related to this as well. Yeah, how good is Rogue going to be without the without encrypted and with shrouded and in the old dungeons? Will every group with the high keys have a Rogue in it? And will shroud be that important? I mean, invis pots are fine, right? Like you could do everything with invis pot, I think, right?
Yeah, for the most part, I think Rogue will be a lot more valuable though this season than last because WoW really took a lot of the utility that Rogue brought, and also Rogue is getting back the Edge of Night daggers, which is an insane item at max item level, and I think that doing these let's see, the Gambit and Streets without WoW, it's going to be quite a shock. You're going to have to skip a lot, so you might want to Shroud and Invis pot back to back in some cases, and then the Junkyard and Workshop dungeons, we also have big skips for back in the day, which Rogue will be able to help substitute in for.
I think it's less good in those two because a lot of mobs have True Sight in Junkyard in particular, and then in Workshop, like
Yeah, but the distract is good to make those skips possible, right?
I just think that Rogue is good in Workshop. I mean, they're just gonna do good damage in that dungeon. like,
Also, in Junkyard, it's nice to have somebody who can go and grab some of the bots, right? Like Rogue could go and get some that other specs couldn't.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
There's like one in the cave, way out to the right as you start the dungeon. That's a good Rogue one.
Yeah.
Any knowers if they can put on slappers again?
Don't
they need
think
those.
so. Any Divers Folly abusers? God, I miss it. God, I miss Divers Folly.
I was thinking about Outlaw, but Outlaw can't use the Edge of Night dagger. So
Outlaw can use one in the offhand. A little Edge of Night in the offhand, sword in the main hand.
True.
Don't mind if we do.
But everybody knows that all Rogue players are over the age of 30, and Outlaw, not a viable specialization for any players over the age of 30.
Very true. And on that note, that is going to be the end of our episode of Titanforge podcast for this week. Next week, we will return to, I guess, discuss the next phase of Alpha and Season 4. I guess Season 4 will have just started. So
Season 4 will be live, so we'll have content.
Yeah, we'll have some content. We'll talk about how hard the faded raids are and stuff, I'm sure. Yeah, that's it for us this week, though. Later, gamers.
Later.